Here's a concept. I'm 36 and a half. I was born in 1981. I grew up with Saved by the Bell, right? That's my generation. So granted, it was in northern Alabama, it was in the South, but really, as far as racism goes, the biggest thing about racism I saw was the fact that people who were Mexican were definitely treated as a different class altogether as they were moving into our school system. And I saw that. And it was all this stuff about they better speak our language, they better stop stealing our jobs and all that crazy stuff. But for me, it was never a big deal about interracial dating. Never. In fact, I kind of always assumed I was going to marry outside of my race. Now, granted, I'm a little bit of all the races, arguably. But I always assumed that there was a good chance I was going to marry someone who was Asian, or at least someone who was at least half black. I always just kind of assumed that. And apparently it didn't happen, but granted, we haven't done a DNA test on my wife yet, so we don't know. And she may show a little bit of Asian. She might show a little bit of African, but like me, she's perceived as someone who is white. But anyway, for me, it was never a big deal about interracial dating or interracial marriage. The only thing that mattered to me, as far as that goes, is religion. I am a very religious guy, whether or not that that comes out in the what I say, because I don't really talk about that much. We're mainly just talking about DNA. But that was the thing. I was like, I couldn't marry out of my religion, out of my faith. I could definitely marry out of my race, because again, I'm already kind of mixed. But specifically, if I'm perceived as a white guy, and I married someone who was black or half black, or Asian, or Middle Eastern, or Jewish, as long as the religion matched up, it was no big deal to me. And I think that definitely has a lot to do with my generation, because we grew up already knowing that racism was wrong and that you shouldn't judge a person based on their color. And so that meant, then why couldn't you have a girlfriend or wife that was a different color? And especially now that I've taken the DNA test, I realize I'm even more ethnic than I realized. But anyway, what are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on that concept that for millennials, born in 1981 and past that, interracial dating, interracial marrying, not a big deal, not a deal. As long as the religion matches up. Sure, there's going to be some cultural differences that you figure out, and sure, your kids will be mixed, but I already feel kind of mixed myself. So, and especially here in America, that's what we are. We're a mixed ethnic nation, and we're becoming that much more mixed as we go along. So anyway, what are your thoughts? Here's my thought. It was never a big deal about interracial dating. It was never a big deal about interracial marrying, as long as the religion matched up. Now, with that being said, some people have a religion, but they're not that religious. So maybe, as long as they marry someone who is equally not that religious, but they could be of two different religions, but if they're not that religious, you know what I'm saying? So I could see how that would work. But for someone who's religious like me, that's a non-negotiable. Never cared about the ethnicity, never cared about the race, never cared about the nationality. In fact, if anything, that was a selling point. I thought that was something that was specifically attractive, which, again, I said this before, but when I first saw my wife, I thought she was Puerto Rican. So I thought I saw someone who was more ethnic than she might actually be. But again, she'll have to take a DNA test. Tell me your thoughts.